Talk. Roll it up and then...
I'm not talking.
Well, no, when your person talks, when you're... Actually, what's your person's name again?
Yes. You in the service. Yeah. You paid your due.
If anyone smells cat pee, I'm so sorry. My cat peed in my suitcase when she was out. I was leaving, and it's on my shoes. That's not
You really don't have
This thing I reached in my bag and so wet. I know. I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
How can one little bag weigh so much?
Kim from Women's March. Kim. We need to have people fill out forms here because it's too many people.
Jennifer.
Just pull that for me. I don't know if you know Michael Doyle from Philadelphia. He's on his way down. Where is he? He's about 15 minutes away. So he needs to be able to sign this way. And then now feel free to move that.
Okay, thank you so much. Jennifer, if I don't get a chance to say it today, thank you for all you do.
There's going to be 100 chances to. Nobody is not going to get to speak today.
No, I just want to say
she's
thank
thanking
you.
you.
I just want to say thank you to you.
Oh, thank you for cooking the food last night.
Oh, I didn't cook anything. I just helped load it in the car.
That's cooking to me. Like packing it.
That's how Jen cooks.
Feeding.
Kim from Women's March. Kim from Women's March. All right, we're going to get started. We are here today. There are people from all over the country who have come here. Before they knew the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, people came in. Hundreds of people got arrested to disrupt his hearing in an act of nonviolent civil disobedience because that's how much they are concerned about him sitting on the Supreme Court. And that was before we knew, and we do know, that he is a rapist. And they are here this morning. They came in last night before we knew the other credible allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. We're going to hear from a few people, just a few people right now, who will share their stories as survivors of sexual assault and sexual harassment. But this isn't the only place that you will hear stories. And I just want to say, it's not going to be easy. We did this last week. We sat in Senator Grassley's office, and literally dozens of women told their stories. Many of them for the first time. Literally dozens of men told their stories for the first time. And it was incredibly painful and moving. The staffers who were asked to sit there and listen while the senators hid and campaigned and raised money back home. They had tears in their eyes. Their lips were quivering. You're going to hear a few stories today, but then we're going to get out of the rain and we're going to bring other stories directly to senators who will decide whether Brett Kavanaugh should sit on the Supreme Court in a lifetime appointment. And we say, hell no! So I'm going to ask Risa to kick it off.
I was 12. I was 12 years old. He was 15. The fact that he was a teenager does not lessen anything, does not minimize the lifelong effects that I've lived with for 46 years. You want details? The details live in my body. Every day, every night, every moment. He was 15, I was 12. He was my brother. Boys will be boys. Oh, they're just experimenting. They're just kids. It's bullshit. It's excuses. It's denials and it's protection of other abusers, of other perpetrators. It did not help me. I have lived with this for 46 years. The extraordinary lengths and amount of work that survivors have to do to integrate what was perpetrated on us, to make ourselves whole again, is enormous. I'm not sure that any perpetrator has a conception of that or does even a minimal amount of work. There are things that you perpetrators can do. Apologies are nice. Accountability is a good step. Work to make sexual abuse, sexual assault, and rape stop. Take responsibility and do things. And to the survivors out there, I've survived, I've thrived. It's been a lot of work, but I'm resilient and I'm good. Yes! And you too can be. Find somebody who will listen to you, who will sit with you, who will hear your pain, and you can do this. We're here with you. We will walk your path with you.
We believe you.
We believe you.
We believe you.
I'd like to ask Kiki to come up.
Hi,
Is it okay, Kiki?
Yeah.
Okay.
my name is Caitlin. I live in New York. 2 years ago, I was sexually assaulted by a man who I thought was a good friend. He chose to rape me. He raped me for over 16 hours. The pain was unbearable. There were times that I passed out. He drove me home and hugged me, and I wanted to die. The trauma and humiliation that I felt after the assault was too much to handle. I couldn't go outside, and so I had to drop out of college, and I lost my job. People turned on me. I stopped eating and sleeping, and I weighed 80 pounds. My boyfriend never stopped supporting me. He made me feel safe, even though he didn't understand and never truly will. 1 or 2 days after the assault, I took the bus to the hospital and had a rape kit. My local hospital did not have a sane nurse. If I had the presence of mind at the time, I would have suggested that they get one. To make matters worse than they could already have possibly been, this incident happened only a few days after my boyfriend and I became officially a couple. I was convinced that he would leave me, but we're still together. 35 years from now, I will still remember every single detail that I remember now. I will never be mixed up, and no man, especially an elected official, will ever have the right to discount my experience or that of any woman, man, boy, or girl. All people who have suffered sexualized violence deserve justice, and this includes Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. Yes. We survivors know that she is telling the truth because we know the pain. We know the pain and the uncertainty that surrounds coming forward, so we recognize it. She didn't want to go public. She was forced to by others, and now she has had to leave her own home due to death threats. Dr. Christine Ford is literally sacrificing everything in the hope that something can be done to stop Brett Kavanaugh from not only destroying, but ending millions of lives. We owe it to her not only to believe her, but to amplify her voice by using our own stories. She is truly the personification of patriotism. Christine, we believe you. Many of us came out as survivors for the first time in the past couple weeks, myself included just now. I think together that we will win and we will defeat Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah! And we believe you! And we believe you! I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
Georgia. Actually, let's do Jackie. Sorry.
I was 6 years old, and I was playing on a playground, and I snuck into a school to get a drink of water, My babysitter's teenage son caught me in the school, and he told me that he would tell on me unless I did everything that he wanted me to. He took me to the ticket booth at a baseball field, and he started molesting me. He molested me for 1.5 years, and during that time, he also forced his 2 brothers to molest me. Eventually, I convinced my mom that I was old enough to be responsible and that I didn't need a babysitter, and I started going home and taking care of myself. I never told a soul for 10 years, and even then, it was only my mom. Please don't put someone like my abuser on the Supreme Court. It's not worth the risk. Women deserve better.
Yes. 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 And we believe you. We believe you. Thank you.
It's raining. People want to get inside. We have a long day ahead of us. We want to tell our stories directly to the people who will cast the vote to either put Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court or not. We're begging them to not do that. But we were against the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh before we knew this. And there are other reasons and other people. So I'd like to ask Georgia to come forward.
Hi. I could speak today about my sexual assault, which happened 5 years ago last week. And that has changed the course of my life. I think it changes the course of most people's lives. And I agree with everyone who's spoken before me that it's not worth putting someone who has credible allegations of that kind of violence against them in a seat of lifetime power over the lives of Americans, a majority of whom I believe are women. And that is terrifying to me. However, there are other things that Brett Kavanaugh represents and other asymmetries of power that he believes should be upheld. One of which is that he has passed Trump's litmus test to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which is also very close to my heart. A close family member of mine has Crohn's disease, which is a chronic illness that affects the gastrointestinal tract. Before the Affordable Care Act, she could not get health insurance at all and was in constant threat of hospitalization and constant pain. And the reality is that Brett Kavanaugh believes, and the Trump administration that he represents believes, that people like her should spend their time trying to put out the fires of health crises and emergencies that might flare up at any time, rather than living their lives, pursuing their careers, and supporting their families and communities. It's a waste of time and energy and healthy lives to not have health insurance for everyone. And we have now, perhaps an imperfect, but a law that affords health insurance to many people with chronic illnesses who otherwise wouldn't be able to obtain it. We cannot risk jeopardizing the lives of so many Americans who have so much to contribute to this country because they are in fear of their own health. We can't let someone on the court who would potentially repeal that law because it is so important to the future of this country and to the future of Americans who have so much to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. We believe you. We believe you.
Okay, there is no shortage of stories. You're going to hear them. We hope that the press will follow us as we march into the Hart Building. We really want to bring these stories directly to the decision makers. So thank you so much for coming out. Are there any questions? Do you need anyone to spell their names? Thank you.
This is crazy. But you need to fill out any forms.
Kim will be here at 9:17, so we should meet her over there.
Inside the Hart Atrium.
Sarah will direct you.
Sarah will direct you. In her high heels.
Walking backwards.
Walking backwards in stilettos.
In the Hart Building.
Follow Jennifer.
Follow Jennifer.
And
It's important for me. I was a victim, and I know many victims. And to say that they're going to vote for Brett Kavanaugh, regardless of what Dr. Ford says, is a betrayal to all the women in this country. We need to be taken seriously.
Hey, gotta be careful with your signs not to get on the steps.
Well, I didn't speak before, and most women don't speak because they're not believers. People, I've seen women come forward after they've been raped and are accused of being crazy, hysterical. It negatively affects their lives terribly. And I can't even imagine doing this to teenagers. I'll say what? Don't speak out.
Hi again.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing? Do you want to introduce yourself to our viewers who haven't met you yet?
Yes, my name is Anita Abraham. I'm one of the state directors for the state of Wisconsin of the Women's March on Washington. I'm also a national trainer for MoveOn.org.
Thank you so much for being out here again this morning very early. And we met when you were sharing your story at Senator Chuck Grassley's office. There are so many more women here today. What is this like for you?
This is empowering. It really is. It lets me know that when I told my story for the first time, it was not in vain, that other women heard me and other men are also telling their stories as well. So, and even some of my family members that I thought that, would not approve of me telling my story are telling theirs.
Really?
Yeah.
That must have been a difficult few days for you then, or powerful.
You know what was difficult for me was when they said that what was difficult for me, I was at the Marriott and I was watching television and they said that Professor Ford's time was up. I think that was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon that day. And tears, I was in the middle of the Marriott and tears, I couldn't stop them, I thought it was all in vain at that time.
Well, and the way the Republicans are treating these stories is horrifying. I don't know about you, but I thought some human element would override whatever partisan politics are happening. Are you shocked?
I am shocked, especially, it's been a long time since the Anita Hills trial, and it seems like things should have changed by then. If I was to do a robbery, I would have to prove my innocence. Here, the victim has to prove her innocence, and it seems like Kavanaugh should be on trial, not Professor Ford. And I want to personally thank Professor Ford for giving me the courage to talk to you today.
Well, and thank you so much for talking to us today. I know it's not easy, and you're in good company.
Oh, yes. And so many young women, like that young lady said just a week ago, that must have been difficult, because you put so much in the back of your minds, and to bring that forward, it's hard.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to tell people about how they can get involved, maybe?
Yes, go to help@womensmarch.com, and yes, you'll get a lot of information. Go to Women's March Facebook page, and yes, and in your state there is help. Also, you can Google Sexual Abuse Helpline, and there's plenty of resources if you need help.
That's really good to know. Thank you.
Not available at my age. There wasn't any 1-800 numbers when I was going through this 40-plus years ago. There wasn't any therapist. Now there is help. You don't have to be ashamed anymore.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, I think that the Kavanaugh nomination going the way it has in the week of the Me Too movement is a tragic but empowering thing for a lot of people here. These women are going to continue telling their stories when we reach HART, and probably on the march over too. We have behind us a group of Yale law students. As you all know, Yale is where Kavanaugh earned his law degree, and we have here Yale law students saying, we demand better. This is better than their college, their law school. This is better than our country. Let me see if we can get one of them to tell us a little bit more about what's going on here. Hey, would you guys be willing to tell me a little bit about the Yale law students who believe Dr. Ford?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Would you guys mind talking to us a little bit? Can you hear?
A lot of folks really want to tell their story.
Yeah.
Does anyone from YLS want to tell their story?
Well, can you tell us a little bit about how you guys got here? And
we took a bus down.
You took a bus? Okay, so are you all Yale law students?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, not the entire group, of course, but over 100 Yale law students came down to D.C. Yeah.
So how did this organizing effort start? I know that this Kavanaugh gentleman is an alum, and is there anger on campus around that?
Yeah, there's definitely anger, and I think just generally a demand that we be better, that law schools be better, that the legal profession is better, that people walk to talk and show that they're going to hold people accountable and not facilitate things just because of concerns about proximity to power and prestige. And we're just here to show that just because we're Yale law students does not mean that we can't come and oppose and know when something is wrong and when something is right. And we know that this is wrong. So we're here in solidarity with Dr. Ford and other survivors. And we just want to show our support to people who don't always have a voice.
Well, and I think, one of the many concerning things here is even if you're not in the legal profession, you know that being nominated to the Supreme Court is even a huge honor. And the fact that he's being treated with as much respect as he has been lends a certain amount of credibility to his behavior. I mean, you're in the process of becoming a lawyer. It's a difficult process, right? Like, don't you want to be represented by people that are much better than this?
Yes, yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. And I mean, another thing that we're asking for is just for process. We don't think that this is something that should be accelerated. This isn't a political game. When there's a credible accusation of sexual assault, it is morally incumbent upon all of us, especially people occupying the highest offices in the land, to give due diligence, to allow for neutral fact-finding, and to not push things under the rug. So yeah, I mean, it goes to the legal profession, it goes to civic participation in general. We need to believe women, we need to listen to women, and when someone like this comes forward with allegations like the ones that have been listed, there needs to be process, and there needs to be an opportunity for people's voices to be heard, and that's why we're here.
Do you have faith in the political process here? Do you think that the senators are going to lend credence? Because now there are multiple women coming forward with these sorts of accusations. Do you think Senator Grassley will listen?
It's hard to say, but we're part of that political process. We can't think of it as you know, asymmetry between people like this, citizens who come out, Americans who come out to demonstrate, to exercise First Amendment rights, to protest, to peacefully assemble. We can't, you know, delineate between that and people in Washington, D.C. We're all part of this process together. That's what being part of a democratic republic is all about. But we hope that with enough voices and enough action that, yeah, we can move the needle on people like Senator Grassley and others on the Judiciary Committee to allow for process and to allow for victims of assault to be heard.
I love that point. That's true. We are a part of this political process. Wait, even if I didn't go to Yale?
Even if you didn't go to Yale.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we're going to be having, as you've heard, survivors and other people standing in solidarity are going to be marching to the Hart Senate building to speak to senators directly, and more likely probably their staffers and interns. And in the meantime, though, just to update everyone, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford came forward sort of almost against her will with these allegations. But now we have evidence that other women, Yale classmates of Kavanaugh's, which means that he would have been over the age of 17. These Republican senators who are saying that he was just a minor, this was a long time ago, it was high school, are sort of losing the ground they stand on as we find out that this behavior has continued well into adulthood. It sounds like the marchers are starting to head over.